and start streaming live? Thank you.
Thank you. We ready to go. All right. I want to thank you all. I want to call this meeting to order. Today is 10:04. And I want to do a roll call vote, please.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Director Emister? He's here. Okay. Thank you, Director. Director Odell? Director Stone? Director Stone is present. Her audio is connected. Director Lockett? He's present. Director Adams?
Present.
Thank you. Director Robinson?
Present.
Thank you. Director Leggett?
Present.
Thank you. Director O'Halloran? Present. Thank you. Chairman Cody?
Present.
Thank you. Chairman, you have a quorum of the board.
All right. Thank you. I want to thank everybody for coming out today. I want to thank all of our customers and our staff. I want to thank every board member for trying to make it through the year. Today is going to be, it may get into a little time, but we're going to try to expedite it as fast as we could. I know everybody want to get out there and finish doing the shopping, spending some money. So, moving on, we're going to move right on into the approval of the agenda. The day is December the 21st, 2021. I want to get a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Beverly, can you do a roll call, please?
Yes, sir. Director Emister?
He was on. There he is.
Approved.
Thank you. Director Odell?
Yes, approved.
Thank you. Director Stone?
Yes.
Thank you. Director Lockett?
Yes.
Thank you. Director Adams?
Yes.
Director Robinson?
Yes.
Director Leggett?
Yes.
Director O'Halloran?
Yes.
Chairman Cody?
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right, thank you. Next, we're going to move right into executive session to discuss personnel, potential litigation, confidential, privileged attorney-client communication. At this time, I want to take a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
We have any discussion? All right, Beverly, we're going to go into executive session.
Okay, now do a roll call vote. Director
Yes.
Emister?
Yes.
Director Odell?
Yes.
Director Stone?
Yes.
Director Lockett?
Yes.
Director Adams?
Yes.
Director Robinson?
Yes.
Director Leggett?
Yes.
Director O'Halloran?
Yes.
Chairman Cody?
Yes.
Okay, motion passed for the executive session. I'll
Thank
start
you.
the breakout rooms. Thank you.
Right.
You got the right idea, Bobby. You got your coffee and you're ready to go. I got my Christmas mug out again. I have coffee, mine. You probably have wine in yours. I need something stronger for a board meeting. It's a good old bourbon. I agree. we're having. Are we back live?
Yes.
Yes, sir, we are live.
I'd like to make a motion why
No,
we're back to, oh, you have to make your.
yeah, first of all,
I'm sorry.
yes, I want to say we didn't take any action or any votes were taken while we was in executive session.
And Dr. O'Halloran, it is not a motion, it's a statement.
Well, my motion is to amend the agenda to remove the item under old and new business. And I think we have to vote on that.
Yes,
Yes.
take a motion.
You're correct.
Do we have a second?
Helen seconded, but she was muted.
Okay, thank you. And I'll do a roll call.
Yes.
Director Emerson dropped off. He
Yes.
dropped off. Okay. Director Odell,
Yes.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Lockett. Do we have Director Lockett?
I don't see him back on, Beverly.
Okay. Director Adams,
Yes.
thank you. Director Robinson,
Yes.
thank you. Director Leggett had to drop off as well. Director O'Halloran,
Yes,
Chairman Cody.
Yes.
Okay, motion passed to remove old business from the agenda.
Thank you.
and I have a point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I think that we should acknowledge the settlement and the conclusion of the claim and litigation of the authority's former executive director, Bakara Malden, on the terms and conditions determined by the authority's insurance carrier and its assigned insurance defense counsel without payment by the authority or any outlay of public or transfer or taxpayer funds. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on. We have our presentations. We have Sterling Seacrest Pritchard. Ms. Ragland, you want to bring them in?
Good morning. Good morning,
morning.
Mr. Chair. Thank you. And directors, those who are joining us this morning or this afternoon now. We have Jenny Osaka here, who is going to provide an update to the board because there were some issues, concerns with the transportation network companies agreement that we brought before the board previously. And we wanted to bring her back to provide some updates to the board at this time. Jenny?
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning. Oh, good afternoon, rather.
All right, don't rub it in.
Sorry. I wanted to provide a quick update just on where we were in the negotiations to make sure that we provide coverage for you guys for the contracts that you're working through with Uber. The current auto liability carrier that you've had for several years now, actually since you rolled back out of the ELIA program, RLI, is concerned with CAT's subcontract with Uber, primarily due to the potential for CAT being named in litigation with regard to the negligence of any Uber driver, which hasn't gone through CAT's screening or training process. These types of claims usually fall under negligent entrustment cases, and they can be difficult to defend. And RLI does not want to pick up this exposure. This is similar to the exposure that we had a few years back when we were using the taxi cab service. Right. So initially, RLI indicated that they would no longer be able to insure CAT at all if we were pursuing these types of contracts. But in discussion with Uber's legal counsel and further negotiations, I think we're making some movement there. In our discussion with Uber's legal counsel, they've indicated that CAT would be included as an additional insured on Uber's policy, which currently is a $2 million policy for auto liability and general liability. Uber's coverage would be primary and non-contributory and would be the primary and only coverage for Chatham Area Transit. So if there were any incidents involving an Uber driver where Chatham Area Transit was named in a suit, Uber's policy would pick up that defense for you and any settlement, but you would also be sharing that limit with Uber. Let's see. RLI said that if they were to remain on the program, they would have to write a specific exclusion for anything that is related, that is Uber related. And so while Uber would be providing the coverage under their policy, there would be no coverage under RLI. So what we're trying to do is look for alternatives to provide you guys with additional coverage for Chatham Area Transit, in addition to or in excess of what Uber is currently providing. In addition, RLI does not want to provide general liability over top of that program as well, again, because of the negligent entrustment litigation potential, but they don't think that exclusionary language would work in that instance as it would on the auto liability side. So they initially indicated again that they would no longer write that coverage for us, but we are in negotiation with them to consider a potential solution of adding a sublimit of $25,000, which is equal to your deductible, so that basically would be a wash, but that they wouldn't get rid of the rest of the program, the general liability program, just for that instance. RLI's legal counsel has not approved that yet, but so we're waiting on an answer from them and hope to have an answer next week. But if they do not approve that, then we would have to find another carrier for your general liability, which is basically your just bodily injury and property damage for third parties for premises. But in an effort to find an alternative solution to this, I know this is not ideal. We would prefer RLI would pick that up. So we went out to some of our other partners who we've talked to in the past about your program. Carolina Casualty, you guys may remember that name from last year. They provided a quote for us, and they were very close in terms of coverage and limits to RLI. They were the first ones to respond back and say, actually, they would have the same stance that RLI has. They would not want to pick up that exposure as well. National Casualty was another carrier that we have spoken to in the past, and they are in discussion with their legal counsel. They haven't come back with a definitive yes or no. Hopefully they'll have an answer for us this week as well. In addition to talking to other carriers who would look at the entire program, we are in discussion with some of our wholesale brokers to talk about carving out that specific coverage. The coverage that's in question is considered hired and non-owned auto liability, because the Uber drivers would be considered hired autos to replace your own drivers and vehicles. I do have two brokers that are working on that right now. We've given them all the information about the risk, what the potentials are. The two underwriters that I was talking to both have COVID and are both at home. So we're trying to move that up the ladder to get one of their management team on board to try and give us an answer as to what pricing may look like as far as that goes. General liability is the same thing. We shouldn't have a problem finding an alternative coverage. What's going to drive that is going to be price, because right now your general liability coverage, the price is suppressed because you have a combined program with RLI. We're paying a lot on the auto side, so they're giving us a break on the general liability. Two other things that you may want to consider. These are going to be more long-term solutions. It's not going to be something that we can fix in the next 30 days, which, a standalone policy could fix that potentially in the next 30 days to give us some time to look at one of these longer-term solutions. One would be a large deductible or retention program, similar to what we have on the workers' compensation, where you're looking at either a $250,000 or a $500,000 deductible. But that gives you more flexibility because you have more skin in the game. So you're allowed to kind of negotiate a little bit more than you would in terms of a guaranteed cost program where you have a smaller fixed deductible. Another option to consider would be creating your own standalone captive insurance program, or even going with a group captive program. I have talked to several group captives, and they are a little bit skittish when it comes to public entity transportation, but we're continuing those discussions. But going back to a captive insurance program, previous to Veolia, again, you had a captive insurance program for your workers' compensation. So we can look at that for auto liability, general liability. We could add workers' compensation into that as well. It would just be something that would take us a few months to put into place. We would need to, in order to set up a captive, you would have to capitalize and fund it appropriately. We'd have to find partners that would work with us, setting up the captive framework, selecting TPAs and that sort of thing. But that is a solution, because a lot of your peers who are doing this sort of thing, they are working through either a captive program or working through a large deductible retention type program that gives them that flexibility, a little bit more flexibility than what we have initially working through a guaranteed cost program. All that to say, I don't really have a definitive answer for you, other than we do know that Uber's coverage will sit on top of yours. We'll provide you with up to $2 million and with defense costs if there is any litigation that comes into play prior to us being able to put some of these other alternative coverages in place. Yes, sir. Mr. O'Halloran?
Yeah. Is that 2 million cumulative, or is that per incident?
The way they have it listed on the information that I have from them, it's that it is an aggregate.
Okay.
So basically that would be a 2 million. The way that they have that listed, it would be a 2 million per occurrence or 2 million aggregate. But again, you would be sharing that with Uber. So if Uber were also named in the suit, any settlement would dilute that coverage. It does not state whether defense is inside or outside the limit. Typically on a general liability policy, it's outside the limit. But we ask for clarification on that as well.
Yeah, because I understand we won't have any control over the training of these vehicle drivers, and I don't believe Uber offers any whatsoever. So, and there's really very little background checking on their drivers. I think we're going to have to really seriously look into this. I know it's an alternative, but I think in the long term, we're probably going to have to solve this as an internal rather than external solution, unless they hire us as a subcontractor to just filter the calls to them, where they're hiring us and we're not hiring them. I don't know if that's a legitimate, Andrew or Ty, but we're hiring Uber to do the work and we pay them. But if they hire us just to consult, does that change the liability problem? Andrew's looking like, why did he ask that question now?
Well, and you can't see me looking, but I'm having a hard time understanding exactly what it is you're positing here. I can understand, of course, us CAT hiring Uber, but I don't understand how Uber would be. I mean, are you saying that Uber would be engaging CAT as a potential market outreach for Uber?
Well, the client would be contacting us for the need of service, and we could provide that to Uber to connect them to our clientele without us hiring Uber direct. I don't know, maybe I'm crazy in the head today, but it's been a long meeting and my voice is going.
Well, in procurement terms, it sounds like you're talking about an unsolicited proposal for what would in effect be, well, it wouldn't be a revenue, it would be an unsolicited proposal from Uber. And and I don't have them in front of me, but there are certain FTA regulations and CAT procurement policies that deal with unsolicited proposals.
Okay.
And I don't know how we could actually say that this is unsolicited, because we went to them, they didn't come to us.
Right.
And now we're getting into what may be privileged attorney-client communications. So that should probably be restricted here.
Because I know we're doing a similar deal with CRC, and it's the same situation. We don't train their drivers. I know they're part of FTA, so they are held to a higher standard than Uber is. So I'm sure that's a significant difference. And
yes, and that's why
I've always been opposed to
that relationship.
I'm always opposed to stuff that puts more liability on CAT since we're using taxpayer money.
Mhm.
Jenny, this is Ty Butler. One clarification. I think I understand you, but when you said that Uber's coverage would sit on top of CAT's, that means that Uber would be the primary coverage.
Yes, because CAT would have no coverage. So Uber's coverage would
Right.
in effect be primary.
And what
But we
what
could
we're
still
sort
be
of
sued.
and what we're sort of casting about looking for is some sort of backup or secondary coverage of CAT
That's correct.
to the extent Uber's might be diluted or exhausted.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Director Odell, you had a question?
Yeah, that seems like too great a risk for us. It's just open-ended right there. It's so great. I don't understand why we want to get involved with them. They have their own system. People can contact them. We're not even going to be covered correctly. If we are covered, we have no control over the drivers. They do something crazy, we get sued. Like, it's just too much.
I had that same objection when we decided to do some of these van programs, that our name goes on it. We have liability and no control. And I totally oppose
But I don't
those
think
kind
we
of
should,
programs.
but I don't think we should do them. I don't even think we should consider them.
I
If
said
we're-
that
if
when
we're
they
not
wanted to
gonna-
do the van program again. I said, no way, I'm not putting our name on something that we have no control
Yeah,
over. No.
I'm not in agreement with the van program either.
No,
Like, I don't
think
understand
we
why
killed
we're
that.
trying to increase our risk with no solution. I just think that's a bad idea.
Yeah, unless we have complete control where it's our drivers and everything else. I don't, I've seen some of these nutcase Uber drivers out there. I've almost got hit by a few. So it's like, insuring a taxi driver in New York.
Right. And what if one of them does something horrible?
Yeah. My sister had a woman in the car that when she was working for Lyft, she was going into stores and stealing from them and then get back in the car and having my sister drive her to another location.
Y'all, I do have a question though. We were talking long-term about first mile, last mile and partnering with Uber. And I realize that's a separate thing, but are we going to run into the same issues? It's just something to think about.
How did the city handle it when they had this group doing the late night driving?
The city currently uses the downtowner service
Right.
for employees, and the liability is held with the downtowner.
But the city has to have some liability on top of that.
I was going to say, I would just assume that, as Jenny said, that the downtowner assumes that responsibility, but the city probably is in a position where they can self-insure as something is
right.
That you
they
suggested.
have a much bigger budget than we do.
Right.
Yes.
But we can check into that and get back to this. I mean, it's not something we have to do tomorrow.
Right. As Director
We
Stone
still don't have
mentioned,
all the responses either, but it's a good update that we know where we are and we can all start thinking about it. So thanks for that, Jenny.
yes,
You're
as
welcome.
Director
I'm
Stone
sorry, I'm
mentioned,
taking
it
over
was-
the meeting, so just tell me to shut up whenever. I'm going to mute myself.
Yeah, it was initially brought to the board as maybe a possible resolution to the first mile, last mile. And that's why we were just exploring it. We want to make sure that we go through all of the ramifications or possible liability. And that's why we haven't acted on it. And that's why we're relying on Jenny and her staff to give us that information. So we're still researching.
Good. I mean, I just don't think we should stop looking at alternatives.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
Other people are definitely doing something to get these results done. So we just got to find the right fit for CAP.
Right.
And I agree with you, Ellen. We got to address it somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we will continue working and keep you guys updated as to the information that we come about. But if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer anything or send any information that might be helpful.
Yeah, we're keeping everybody busy these days. We
Thank
got
you so
Ty
much,
and Andrew
Jenny.
working overtime.
Thank you guys so much. I hope y'all have a wonderful holiday. Talk soon.
Thank you, Jenny.
you.
Thank
And you
you.
too, Jenny.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jenny.
Bye-bye.
All right. All right. We have any more discussion on Seacrest? Thank you for that, Ms. Ragland. We're moving on to consent actions.
Gonna make a motion, we accept the consent agenda as
Yeah.
posted.
Second.
Beverly, do we have any changes, any questions, comments?
And
All right,
I'll-
Beverly.
okay, Director Emister?
He
He's
left.
out. Yes, sir. Thank you. Director Odell?
Yes.
Director Stone?
Yes.
Director Lockett? Director Adams?
Yes.
Director Robinson?
Yes.
Director Leggett?
He's left also.
He's left. Thank you, Dr. O'Halloran. Director O'Halloran?
Yes. And
Chairman
Bobby,
Cole.
you need to unmute so you can vote.
Yes.
Chairman Cody?
Yes.
Okay, and I'll go back to Director Lockett. We're
Yes.
voting. Okay, thank you.
All right.
Chairman, motion passed for the consent agenda items.
All right. Thank you, Beverly. All right. So we have regular board meeting minutes to Ms. Ragland. You want to cover this?
Yes, sir. We have two action items that were added to the agenda. One was the MP synergy change order, and the other was the order of the contract with ACOM. And they have been both previously placed on the agendas in the past, but the MP synergy, well, I won't go into detail. I'll let Ms. Roundtree come forward to present those two.
I'm sorry, do we need to do a motion in a second for the first item, the MP synergy?
Yes, we're gonna have to, we gotta take a vote on this, right?
Before discussion?
Yes.
We're taking a vote on which thing?
No, we're taking a motion in a second for discussion for the MP synergy.
Okay.
So we need a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Chairman Cody, I'll hand the floor back to you for discussion.
All right, do we have discussion on synergy for this change order? Ms. Ragland?
What exactly, can we explain exactly what synergy is and exactly what they're doing?
Yes, Director Odell. They're not doing anything currently right now. When we brought this before the board in August, it was incorrectly submitted to request. It should have been an additional $20,000 for general planning services. So it's just on call to get us through the remaining of the fiscal year in the event. So we have, with TDP and different things coming up with projects, anything that we need additional assistance with, that they can assist us with just general planning, but it was totally on call. So initially when we brought it before you in August, it just really allowed the board to request additional or to approve an additional $5,000 instead of the $20,000. And so that's what we're requesting before the board, but it's just general on-call planning services that will just be available for us throughout through the end of the fiscal year, through the end of June 30th, 2022.
If I might add, initially, we had advertised the position for a planning manager. We did offer the position, excuse me. The position was accepted, but the person did rescind. We thought that they were going to be starting with us end of November, December, and they rescinded the offer. So we are hoping that this will take us through the end of the fiscal year and also give us time to repost the position, which we already have, but to have some candidates come forward for that position. Dr. Robinson.
Okay, so the $20,000 has already been spent. We spent all the $20,000.
266. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. The original 20 was spent. So this is for an additional 20 for a total amount of 40,000, and that will be throughout the end of the fiscal year.
So we're
I
not
don't
asking
think,
so we're not asking for additional 5,000, we asked for additional 20,000.
Correct. Yes, ma'am. What I was saying was in August, when it was presented to the board, the original amount was 15. So when it was on the board agenda, it was set for 20,000. But so it was for the additional 5. So that was for the first 20. And now, because every change order requires board approval, we're asking for 20 additional thousand to get us through the fiscal year. And it's just on call.
Okay, but let me ask you this, and I don't know what either one of you, can you give me a specific example of what we would need on call? What could come up between now and January?
Yeah, so it will just be for general consulting. If it's any type of planning, we're still looking. And one of the reasons that the insurance was on the call today was trying to look at some of our routes, redoing it. We previously put in that we were trying to eliminate or reduce some routes or temporarily suspend them and use Uber or Lyft to supplement those services. So we're just looking at other ways to just really try to get through the pandemic with modifying some of our routes, having some additional consultant, just to see what we can do. Obviously we're still dealing with a staffing shortage, and there's just going to have to be some changes that we're going to have to make for our routes in order, to keep afloat until this pandemic subsides. So just any kind of on-call assistance. We haven't identified exactly what, but we definitely would like to look at them or use them for just kind of reviewing our routes and seeing what we can do.
And this is through June, not January.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's not a 1 month,
think
it's a 6 month extension.
No.
I don't think we should extend it for 6 months and just extend that open-ended on that. I think we should deal with this in committee and table it.
Well, Director Odell, the idea was to extend it through the end of this fiscal year. At the end of the fiscal year, that we will issue an RFP for those services.
Why aren't we looking to hire a person?
We are trying to hire a planning manager, but as I said, the person did accept the offer, then they rescinded. So now,
right, I understand. So was the job reposted?
Yeah, it is reposted. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I don't think that we should extend a contract for 6 months at another $20,000. I think we should talk about it in committee.
It's on demand only. It's not a firm contract.
Right.
We're only going to use it when we need it, if we need it, but we want to have it available if we do need it.
When will the position close? When will the application be accepted and that close? When are we going to close that?
We are accepting applications. We continue to accept applications. As I said, the person rescinded in December, early December.
Mm-hmm.
We thought we had a strong candidate, but that didn't work out. So now we're still at this point accepting applications for that position.
And the application close date is in 5 days.
So we talk 5 days from today?
Correct.
Okay.
And Dr. Robinson, this position for the planning manager has been open for quite some time. Even when Brent was in this role, The same thing happened. It was advertised, the person. So we're just trying to, work harder with making sure that we identify some applicants and get some, qualified people in here that's not going to rescind, but it did happen again. So we're not sure why it's happening, but it did happen. I think over 6 months ago, someone accepted it and then rescinded. So it's been happening to us, and just to kind of keep us afloat until then with some hard decisions that we need to make for schedules and things like that. It's only on call. So we will only use them if we need them.
So what happens if within 6 months we don't need them?
Then we won't use the money.
Then the money will be available. It's coming from operating, so then we won't have to use it.
So they're not locking us in for a 6 month contract?
Oh, no, ma'am.
No.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
We were just using that time frame to get us through the end of the fiscal year, so it doesn't have to come before the board again. And then, once the budget process starts, then we can, look at something more long-term with an RFP. But just to get us through the end of the fiscal year is what we were looking at, on call only.
Makes sense.
But Mike, we have a lot of consultants right now, a lot of vendors. And I don't have a problem with it coming back before the board to verify or confirm amounts being paid. You talking about, it's a lot. We have a lot of consultants.
Yeah, I know, but we're minus a lot of people, and if we have to come back to the board every time, it's a 30-day drop-off period in between the time we need it and the time we might actually authorize it. And if it's only on an emergency basis when we absolutely positively have to use them, I'm not opposed to that.
Well, I don't want to extend it for another 20,000.
Well, we have to put a cap on it. You don't want an open-ended contract.
Does it have to be 20 if we can't drop it?
We could, but then we'd have to do it again if that goes in a month, which you could. We don't know. I know consulting, every time I see a consultant fee, it's like 5 times what I thought it should be. But we don't have, that's the rules. The FTA requires all that to be done.
Right, but we have not, it's been a while since we looked at all of our vendors, and I specifically sent an email asking to provide us with a list of all of the vendors so that we could go over that in committee, and we haven't gotten that yet. And I'm concerned that we have way too many consultants and what we're paying out for those consultants.
Actually, I think that's listed in the financial report on payments to outside vendors, and that includes the consulting services.
Yeah, but I had asked for a list of the vendors to be provided, the start date, the end date, and what they were supposed to be doing. That's just a list of payments.
And Director Odell, I'll take responsibility for that. I thought that I had sent that to you already, but I'll go back and look through my emails to make sure that you receive that.
We could include it in the board report too. That way we're seeing it on a monthly basis and don't lose track of what's going on.
It used to be in the monthly report.
I think Terry started doing it for a while, but after she left, it kind of got dropped off the deep end.
We can address that.
Yeah, it's about a half a page. It's not really like we're going to have to read a journal to figure out who we're using and for what.
And I'm really okay the fact that we're not locked in, that we got to pay them whether we use them or not. And if it's an on-call, I would just ask staff to just be cautious as to how you use them and try to stay within a reasonable amount of spending.
Yes.
Well, if they get close, they're going to have to come back to us anyhow to extend.
Yeah.
So we'll be able to track it.
Yes.
And that should show up on payment.
Yes.
The journal at the end of each board meeting. Andrew, what are you doing over there?
I am reading something. Sorry.
That's right. I did too. I used to hide.
So are we ready for the vote?
Yeah, let's keep moving.
Yeah, we're ready for the vote.
Okay.
Ready for the vote.
Director Emister is not present. Director Odell,
No.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Lockett,
Yes.
Director Adams, Director
Tammy's
Adams.
on. Tam?
Yes.
Okay. Director Robinson,
Yes.
Director Leggett,
He's gone off also.
thank you. Director O'Halloran
Yes.
and Chairman Cody.
Yes.
Motion passed.
I'll make a motion. We accept the the contract with ACOM.
Okay.
You have a second?
I'll second.
We got discussion. Ecom. What do we have on them?
Remind us what they are first.
Yes, sir.
I'm
They,
getting alphabet
ACOM
fatigue.
is a consultant service. They're technical services, but they specialize in just about everything. Particularly what they're helping us is in contract compliance and grants oversight or grants management. They have a lot of experience with FTA. And so one of the reasons that we're using them now, staff, including this department, we do a lot of the grants ourselves with the oversight of them. But with their experience, they can just make sure that we're managing it right. In addition, they're currently working on several grants, particularly our federal funding for ARP assistance. So that's in the works right now. We're still trying to push that through. And so there are a few grants in addition to the ferry grant that we have in progress. And we are just waiting for FTA to move those a little bit more, forward. We do have one grant that's in the works. It's due on the 11th of January that we're working on. They'll just provide oversight or review of that. And so that's why we need them. We're proposing to use an additional $30,000 that we do have in the budget for the remaining of the fiscal year. So that will be until June of 2022. Additionally, we're anticipating, as we received some information about the Infrastructure Act. So we know that in early January or February, there's going to be a lot of changes. We're just not sure what yet regarding the Infrastructure Act, and probably a lot of grants. We're just kind of anticipating. So just somebody to kind of, really kind of guide us so that we are, that they can have direct communication with FTA and kind of guide us on making sure that we're doing everything that's compliant regarding this Infrastructure Act that's upcoming in January or February.
And they are on demand also?
That's correct. Yes, sir.
Yeah, because delays in these FTA grants can take a year to correct if we get it wrong.
Yes.
And
yes.
it could be a very little bit of wording that's out of place and boom, FTA is going to slam you.
And that's what we just recently did with the ferry grant. We added, because we had another ferry, it was easier to redo that and rewrite it to add the ferry instead of creating another grant. So it's things like that they just provide, general assistance and guidance to let us know what's the best way to move these things a little bit forward. And it's kind of in the works. So we have several that we are working on right now, particularly ARP is the largest one, and it's just taking a little bit longer. But we want to see this through, and we're hoping that throughout the, through the end of the fiscal year, June 30th, that we will have this complete.
Let me ask
So
a
this
question.
is another vendor.
Yes, so we only have two in system development that we're working with right now. The others are RFPs that the board approved for this month, but these are the only two that they're on call.
And I have one question. On average, for each occurrence that we use either one of these,
Yes.
what do we pay?
Yeah.
So we have a price sheet. It's really, so there's two employees assigned to our contract, and it's for probably, I would say probably for the last task order, which covered about 3 months, that was a little less than $10,000.
So I mean, we can run through 30,000 or 20,000 in 2 to 3 months.
We're hoping, Dr. Robinson, that with these upcoming grants, that once we get this done, we won't use them as much. We're not sure about infrastructure. We're probably going to just need guidance on that. We haven't heard about any upcoming grants other than the Infrastructure Act. So it's just kind of just waiting to see, what happens with that. As far as any pending grants, we only have one current one, and that is due January the 11th that we're working on, in addition to the ARP funding and the ferry funding.
So again, with $30,000 and averaging, you've already said 3 different things.
Yeah.
And if each one of those is $10,000, that 30,000 is gone.
Yeah, we're hoping. I mean, we just want it to just be good stewards of the money, and try to hold out. I mean, if it's just staff has to do, some more, we'll just have to do it. But they're just kind of really invaluable with providing, FTA and grant assistance for us. But you're absolutely right. We're just hoping that this amount, just kind of looking at the budget, that it's within our budget right now. We're just hoping that will last us until June 30th.
Did you say it cost us $10,000 in the last 3 months?
Yes, sir.
And are we looking for them to do a lot more than what they did in the last 3 months?
We don't know right now, because we don't know what's going to happen with the Infrastructure Act as far as any grants or anything. The only grants that we have pending now with them that we're trying to complete are 3 pending grants that are really important: the ferry, ARC, and another mobility grant that's due the end of the month. The beginning of January. So it will really depend on what we hear or what FTA puts out there for Infrastructure Act, but we just don't know right now.
And Mr. Chairman, I would just like to add that, yes, we base it on an average of what we have been using per month. That's about $3,000 a month. And as Ms. Roundtree said, they've been invaluable, especially when dealing directly with the FTA. Some of the members of their staff have been prior members or employees of FTA. So they know the ins and outs, if you will, things that we don't know, that they're able to provide guidance on. So $30,000, we're hoping, based on an estimated $3,000 a month for the next 6 months, that would take us through.
And we pay them hourly?
Yes, sir.
It's based on actual work done. Okay.
Yes. There,
Sorry,
there's
Tab, I
2
cut your hand
consultants
off.
assigned. Yes, sir.
We have oversight and fiscal responsibility, and I don't think we are looking at these vendors closely enough, inspecting these scope of services and keeping track of how this money is being spent. We are not in committee. It doesn't come up that often, and we're not looking at these vendors often enough. And we're approving this, and it's another 6 months, and we just keep approving these vendors. We need to look at in-house resources. We need to look at who we might need to send out for training. We need to look at how we can reduce the number of consultants that we have in-house. And we have a lot of consultants.
The director,
I think that's partly because we've cut down on hiring at the most recent levels. And instead
we
of
just
putting-
did that recently, and that's at the end of the year. We just
Yeah.
did that recently, Mike.
Well, I'm hoping we have all these positions ready and filled for next budget year so we can put them into the budget. But to hire them now, and by the time you pay benefits and everything else, planning director is going to cost us more than 20 grand. It's going to be more like 75 to 100.
I understand that, but that doesn't mean we do a blanket approval for the next 6 months.
No, and it's on demand. I mean, they can report what's being spent on a monthly basis.
Yeah, I would support it if it's reported on a monthly basis.
I agree that way, because we don't get to see the staff very often. This is the only time we're in contact, so.
And again, I trust that staff is going to do their due diligence, to do what they can do to ensure that these consultants, are doing what they're supposed to do at a rate that needs to be done and will help us financially stay on track.
And with the new committee structure, different people will be looking at the information than might have been in the past committees. But it's our charge to keep track. And if we need to ask at a committee meeting, we should ask.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Because we have to be accountable and have that fiduciary responsibility on how the money is being spent. And I know
we need
Helen's
to know
shaking
what-
her head about that.
And we need to know what they're doing, the scope of services, the estimated time. We are not getting project reports. We are not.
Yeah, I think
And we're just approving things.
I think we should, require that this be, reported to us.
Mhm. Yeah, I'm all for that. I mean,
And I'm thinking we're moving forward. The minute these RFPs are let and approved, you know, even within the RFP process, we should be able to see the scope. And something I've read, the scopes have always been there of their service. But I think our issue is we don't know how long it's going to take them to do it. So when we say 20,000 and we find out that our needs change, then we need them longer, then they come back to us with a request to increase it. I mean,
we are not getting reports correctly. We are not getting status reports on all of these different vendors. We do not know what the status is on these individual projects. We don't know. And the last time we got a status report, we got dozens of pages of board minutes, which is not a status report.
no,
We are not getting this information correctly, and we're not tracking it. And we have a lot of consultants.
No, I think,
And
Valerie,
we're getting ready to approve this.
and I think staff hear us, and I think moving forward, I agree. The more information we have, it puts us in a better position to be able to assist staff. I
Yes,
agree.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
If I may, please,
Yes.
if I may. I don't want there to be confusion as to whether or not this was an RFP process or an agreement under the CEO's authority. When there is an RFP, there is a defined scope of work outlining what projects, whether it's a consultant or other contractor, what they will be working on. But these comes up when there is a situation and a circumstance wherein these services are needed to submit grants when we're short of help and we're on a tight timeline. But we will be more transparent as a part of the financial report. The board will get a listing of contractors, current amount paid, year to date, in an effort to be more transparent and to keep the board informed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cutter. And even if something is just done under CEO approval, there should be correct project status reports. There should be ongoing status reports telling us where we are, what we're doing, and how we're getting there. Even if it doesn't go through the RFP process and it's just under the CEO's authority.
Thank you, Director Odell, but most of these activities are just day-to-day operations, day-to-day duties and tasks that we perform. So I'm not sure if I understand when you say projects, most of these are just daily activities.
like
So
getting attorney approval. I'm sorry. It's like when you call the attorneys to get something decided.
Yes. I mean,
Yeah, we should just, we can list these things. Everybody's got a copy of it. So let's get it out to the board. Or at least explain
that. We will.
Even in a weekly report from the ICEO.
And it's a great time to begin that. We're starting a new year and we'll start a new process. And then by including that report in the financial report.
I think that'll satisfy most of us.
Yep.
Okay, so noted.
We have to vote on this, am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We have a motion second.
Yes, sir, we do. And I'll do the roll call. Director Emister is out. Director Odell?
Yes.
Director Stone?
Yes.
Director Lockett?
Yes.
Director Adams?
Yes.
Director Robinson?
Yes.
Director Leggett? Not, he's out. Director O'Halloran?
Yes.
And Chairman Cody?
Yes.
Motion passed.
All right. So moving on down, we're gonna go into the executive director's report and get our unit updates.
Mr.
Ms.
Chairman,
Reagan?
probably
Yes.
going to have to scoot off of this meeting at 1 o'clock because I've got another meeting that I've got to attend. So I just want to disclose that.
All right, thank you, ma'am. All right, Vice Chair Stone, you be safe.
I will, but I'll stay on till 1.
All right.
I've put mine in the chat to you, Chairman Cody, that
Yes.
I've got to jump off as well.
All right, I appreciate it,
right.
Dr. Robinson.
Thank
Are
you.
we gonna have a quorum?
I think we voted on everything.
Okay,
Yeah,
I think we're
the
okay.
voting is over.
Yeah.
okay. Y'all have a Merry Christmas.
Same to you.
Same
Happy
to
holidays to
everybody.
everybody who's leaving.
All right. And in our executive director's report, Ms. Ragland.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know it's been a long morning for you all, so I'll be brief, and I'll ask the other presenters to be brief as well. First, I would just like to say that the resiliency of our employees has been absolutely amazing. I just want to applaud them and acknowledge them for all that they've done this year and thank them for staying committed, not just so much for the salaries that they're being paid, but for their commitment to the community and for the people that we serve. I do want to inform the board that we have solidified the contract with CRC, and they will commence the contract on January 3rd. So we met with them and we met with the scheduler here at CAT so that we can coordinate the best way to provide them with their manifest. We're looking really looking forward to the assistance. We've been working really hard trying to keep that service intact. Although we know that we've had some shortcomings, we appreciate the board's giving us the opportunity to offer this assistance to our paratransit drivers and also to our fixed route operators who've stepped up to the plate to help during this crisis. Our supervisors, office staff as well, everyone has been in the seats trying to pick up passengers, and we appreciate all of those efforts. I do want to acknowledge that as well that the staff attended a meeting with Step Up Savannah, who's been one of our partners for a long time, and they've informed us or informed the public that they will no longer place employee trainees with organizations that don't support the living wage of $15 an hour. So with the city's recent announcement of moving minimum wage to $15, Step Up is now saying that we won't put our trainings with you unless you are paying $15. We realize that there's a need for a retention and recruitment plan within our organization, and Ms. White will be providing that to you on in January for the January board meeting. A plan for Chatham area transit to put in place for retention and recruitment. And with that, my report is in your packet. I'll entertain any questions. If not, we'll move on to the service delivery with Mr. Dumas.
Good morning, Chairman, and to all the board members. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity to give some information. I promise that we will be brief, and our information today has been fairly long. And so we will go into our slides. Your information has already been included in your board packet. Next slide, please. Our fixed route on-time performance is slightly down, but it's about the same as it was in September. It went down, dipped in October, but we're back to where we were in September and August. We were at about 60% on-time performance. Next slide. Our ridership is slightly down from last month. We still are in a position where we're trying to hire operators, both fixed route and paratransit. And we have a class that's ongoing now with our fixed route. And so this should help us to be able to meet the demands by having the number of employees, the proper number of employees we need in order to have our buses out where they need to be. And the on-time performance is a reflection of the shortage that we're going through. Next slide, please. Paratransit on-time performance, again, it's about the same, has not changed much. And also we have our 5 top performers listed on your slide as well. And so we won't go for the sake of time announcing their name, but they're on the slide. Next slide, please. Our ridership for paratransit is down, again, due to the shortage of operators. We have a paratransit class that's in training currently as well, and that will help in addition to what has already been mentioned about the CRC service, Coastal Regional, assisting us to help us. So our on-time performance is expected to be better on the January, should I say, start January, when we added the additional service. Next slide. Our mobile app is slightly down from what it was last month. They're still being utilized, but not as much. I still believe that part of the shortage has impacted the reservation because of the delay in service. But again, we hope that all this will bounce back in January. Next slide. Ferry system, you can see that our ridership for the ferry is up in the month of November compared to last year, but it's also up compared to last month as well. This is due to the different conventions that are held. So the ferry boat is holding its own and doing real well. Next slide. Our means distance between vehicle failure is above our target of 12,000. So we're doing well, thanks to the maintenance department for continuing to work hard with the buses that we have, even though we're in need for new equipment, but they're working diligently to keep the ones that we have up and running. Next slide. Our mobility service call, we're still below our target of 60 seconds. So we're doing well there. And even though we have an increase in calls, as you see on the next slide, we are continuing to have increased calls for our service. So our demands are high. We still have individuals that are requesting the paratransit service. That number continues to go up in reservation and certification, certifying new clients as well to use our system. So you see that we definitely need to continue providing paratransit service. But as we hire new individuals and get the additional service, we hopefully will be able to continue to add clients and then meet the demands as well. Next slide. The next 3 slides is basically on our safety and our COVID protocols, and you can go through those, Ms. Dion, but Mr. Hall is on. And if you have any questions on any of the COVID updates or workers' comp accidents and incidents, he's available to answer any of those questions. But that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to entertain those.
I did notice in one of the reports that our vaccine numbers are up to 70%, and in November we only had 2 occurrences of callouts.
Yeah, yes, sir. The vaccine is up, and that's due to a lot to our human resource department encouraging employees to get vaccinated and to report that information to us.
Yeah, you can see those jumps in the October, November numbers because of that. And also, if I'm looking at it correctly, paratransit appears to be up about 30% over last year's numbers in
That's
general.
correct. Yes, sir. The demands are there. That even though the service is being delayed somewhat, but it doesn't stop individuals from utilizing the system.
And it's good we got CRC coming on in January because that's a big spike. And the reason for that is that most Medicare companies require an annual physical and everybody runs in January to get those.
Yes, sir.
So I'm glad we're going to have the extra help for the month of January.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mr. Dumas.
Okay, Okay, Ms. Roundtree?
Yes, ma'am. We don't have a presentation today, so we're just going to highlight a few items that we're working on, especially for the sake of time. Particularly the dot downtown. We are in January the 9th. We will be adding the Liberty Street back into the dot downtown service. The city did request that, and so that will begin on January the 9th. Additionally, we're working on completing the grant, the Enhanced Mobility Innovation Grant. That's due on January the 11th. And January 22nd will be the kickoff where we will be starting the previously approved Route Match web portal. And so it's kind of a perfect timing for that in conjunction with CRSC and just trying to really improve our paratransit services. So just as a recap of that, we will be starting to have where our paratransit customers will have some of the same conveniences as our fixed route with the Clever Devices project. And so they will be able to log in, look online, instead of reducing some of the customer service contact, they will be able to track their trips, register, cancel trips, or do everything from their phone or the web portal. So we're very excited about that. And that will begin, the kickoff will begin January 22 for the planning of that. And everything else is in the packet. I will answer any questions.
Two quick notes. I did notice on fixed route, we had 356 wheelchair accesses for last month. I think that's a pretty big jump, isn't it, from what we've been doing in the past?
Yeah, it's been really increasing. We know that I was on the platform just this week, Dr. Halloran, and I was speaking to some of the customers, and because of some of the issues with paratransit, they have been using our fixed route system, and just getting assistance from individuals, their family or friends to get on because they still need, to get to their appointments and things like that. So it's unfortunate, but they have been using our fixed route system to travel.
And Liberty Street, is that the senior circulator?
No, sir.
We still don't have that back yet.
No, we have been in discussions with the city as recently as this morning. They did not have an update yet on the senior circulator. We will be discussing next week where we're moving forward with the downtowner because we had previous discussions with that. They had temporarily put it on pause until the city manager got acclimated and kind of briefed on everything. So we're starting that discussion again and we'll know. But for the senior circulator, they have not or not ready to move forward with a decision on that yet.
And I think the one other thing I saw in the complaints, could we find a way to categorize those by type rather than, I'm sure it's lateness and is pretty much the basic problem we're having, but it'd be good to see it. And especially, I think we're starting up those Wednesday night meetings with the paratransit and the regular passengers.
Yes, sir.
So we'll get, hopefully handle some of that feedback on the complaints. I mean, public transportation is a complaint in general. Let's face it. No one wants to be stuck waiting out in the weather for a bus. And then, of course, with the wheelchairs, real quickly, don't want to go any longer than we have to. A lot of our stops are not wheelchair accessible, especially where they stuck out the orange signs. They're on dirt. So no one's going to get a wheelchair there, and there's no curb cutouts to bring a wheelchair out that, but we have no control over that. We don't own the property. But thank you for your report.
Thank you, Ms. Roundtree. Ms. Cutter.
Good afternoon again. I'd like to apologize to the board. The report that I forwarded to Ms. Dumas was not the updated report. What I will be sharing is the true November report, and I will get a copy of the presentation to you. What's really pressing this month, of course, is the full scope management overview. The reviewers on behalf of the FTA, they are really in the meat of the overview. They are currently doing the assessment piece, and their focus is on our procurement process in compliance with, of course, FTA guidelines, grant funded disbursements, change orders. They're doing some payroll sampling and putting a microscopic eye on every dollar that we use the CARES Act and CARISA funds for. The external audit has been completed. A post-audit presentation will be before the board in January of 22, and we are moving forward with budget preparation. As projected, the month in cash balance is just rose a little for the month of November, but we anticipate a major spike in the month of December. The SSD revenue, some of it has already come in and it's already exceeded the amount for November. This is a comparison of revenues and expenses, actual versus budget. As you see, revenues over expenses for the month of November totaled $922,827. Revenues and expenses as budgeted, $53,938 variance. This graph it just shows you what the cash receipts were for the month. At the end of November, we had an operating cash balance of $4,128,947. This pie chart shows the revenue by revenue category, and you can see the special district tax is a little higher. The operating revenue by category, by program category, is reflected in the chart and is displayed in the graph below, actual versus budget. The yellow representing the year-to-date budget, the red represents the year-to-date actual.
Pretty close.
Yeah. Expenses by category, no surprises here. Salaries and wages, 47%. Employee benefits, 18%. This table and chart shows the expense comparison by operating program. The graph below, it graphically depicts the actual versus budget comparison, where the red line represents the actual and the yellow represents the budget, which reflects we are under budget in terms of expenses.
Yeah, every month. Nice.
Mm-hmm. And this chart is just a reminder of our goal, focusing on internal controls, compliance, succession planning, budget prep, and long-term financial planning. Thank you. Any questions?
Not a question, but a comment. It's nice to see that we're close to 7 million in the bank every month, so we're well above the Wells Fargo requirement.
Yes, we're really doing good financially.
Yeah, those numbers look great. Thank you for all your hard work.
Mm-hmm.
That would end our updates, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to take this opportunity to wish you all happy holidays, as well as members of staff and public who are joining us this afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Ragland. And I also like to thank the public, and I would like to thank all our employees and staff. And I want to send thanks out to the board members. I know all of us this year have not only gone through the pandemic, but we have also gone through a lot within our organization. I thank everybody for their hard work and due diligence. And I just look forward to the world getting better. This pandemic is all over the world. It's causing us to lose riderships. We thank our community for being patient with us. And I thank Ms. Ragland for putting us on the right track with CRC going into the new year. I look forward for many improvements. I look forward for our retreat that we're going to be taking very soon. And I know we're going to have some changes coming up. And I'm looking for all positive changes. And like, as I said again, I definitely appreciate the hard work and due diligence of this agency. And with that being said, I want everybody to have a great Christmas. We'll spend that money. Dr. Halloran.
I got one quick thing. I agree with everything you just said. I think it's been a hell of a 2 years. And I know I'm not going to make anybody happy, but Vacker's been here for 3 hours. I think we should give him 5 minutes since the legislative's going to start before we have another board meeting.
Exactly. He's hard at it also.
I know.
My apologies.
He'll never stop.
Please
That's if
forgive
he's
me.
still here. Yeah, he's still here.
Sorry, I'm still here, and I was trying to figure out how to unmute. I'll be very brief. We are making some advances through the attorneys working together with Garden City. That will be pursuit of finalizing that will be one of the top things that will be on the schedule for the beginning of January. And there also appears to be or will be some attempts at some forward motion on a couple of other fronts as well, having to do with transit services. We did elevate the question of the validity of the current 2-county transit sales tax requirement to the Attorney General. And Representatives Gilliard and Ron Stevens have both sent a letter to the AG. The AG's staff have communicated back with Representative Gilliard, who has communicated with me, and we're going back and forth to provide clarity and information to them on exactly what our position is on the problem with the current language. I believe there will be a face-to-face meeting set with the 2 legislators and the AG staff sometime the first week of the session, which will be January the 10th. And we're very hopeful that the AG will say that there is a problem that not only should this law be changed, but it must be changed so that the other 146 counties in the state can enjoy the same capabilities of raising revenues to support transit as those within the metro Atlanta area can have. Again, I will be up at the Capitol starting January the 10th, and literally every day that they're in session, I'll be there to keep pursuing what our agendas and interest areas are. And so thank you all for giving us the opportunity to represent CAT for the past several years. Look forward to continuing on the continuous quest to keep us as healthy as possible in terms of identifying new revenues, and wish everybody a very good Christmas and a happy New Year.
Thank you.
Mike, any idea when Savannah Day is going to be, or just let us know as soon as you have some date?
I have the date, and I want to say it's January the 23rd, but I will confirm that with an email to Val to distribute to everybody, but I'm pretty sure it's January the 23rd.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
All right,
Have a
thanks
good
all.
one.
Right. All right. Thank everybody. Everybody have a happy New Year. Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Same to
Right.
you. Same to you.
Merry
Take
Christmas.
care, everyone. Have a great holiday season.
Happy
You
holidays.
have one too. All right, bye.
Happy
All right.
holiday, everybody.
Thank you. All right, Beverly, thank you for our board liaison for all her work. We
And
couldn't
thank
do
you,
none of this
Beverly.
without her.
Thank you, Beverly.
And
All right.
she may have had to jump off. She had a slight emergency, but I'll make sure that she gets that message.
Please do. Please do.
I will. I will. Thank you.